The following is an AZPM original production.
Arizona Science is supported by Research Corporation for Science Advancement.
For Arizona Public Media, I'm Leslie Tolbert, Regent's Professor Emerita in Neuroscience at the University of Arizona, and this is Arizona Science. Our guest today is Martin Reimann, Associate Professor of Marketing in the Eller College of Management, with joint appointments in psychology and in cognitive science. He directs the Arizona Think Tank for Behavioral Decision Making. What a beautiful name. His wide-ranging interests include the scientific underpinnings of the choices we make as consumers. Martin, welcome, and thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me, Leslie.
Let's start with some background. It's pretty unusual for someone in the Eller College to have a solid foot in psychology and cognitive science programs. What attracted you to sort of look behind the curtain at what brain science can tell us about how consumers make decisions?
Yes, so I'm deeply invested in the study of consumer decision making. As you pointed out, I'm especially interested these days in how people relate with and interact with other people, inanimate objects, in marketing. That could be products and brands. And I'm interested in how these relate to their experiences that they are having and the emotional and cognitive underpinnings of these consumer experiences.
And it seems that what you're doing really has application, as you mentioned, far beyond consumer behavior. But tell us about what you've done to get at the emotional and psychological processes that underlie our desires, our choices. In particular, I'm especially interested in your use of brain imaging techniques.
I use a wide variety of different methodologies, one being functional neuroimaging. I also conduct behavioral experiments. My participants usually engage in some kind of a behavioral task when they're in the brain scanner. But I'm not limited to that kind of research. I also do research in the behavioral lab and ask people about their opinions and have them make choices.
And you're making measurements in the brain's hippocampus, which is where we think of it as the place where we make and store memories. How did you focus in on the hippocampus?
We had a hypothesis about the involvement of the hippocampus, which has been related to the processing of autobiographical memories. And the hypothesis was that for choosing between different experiences that vary in riskiness, the hippocampus is involved. And the reason for this, we think, is that when people make choices about experiences, they recruit the memories from their own past, and that allows them to gauge the risk and the valence, so the emotional positivity, negativity of the experience, and arrive at a choice.
And we know, as neuroscientists, we know that the hippocampus is all about place and memories of place, as well as a more general role in laying down memories. So we think of the hippocampus as having a map of our physical environment. Is that critical in the processes that you're talking about?
It could be, absolutely. So mapping on the particular place that we have been, so say having enjoyed the best dinner under the Eiffel Tower in Paris, right, with your loved one, that relates to a map, a particular place, a particular temporally bound episode that we went through. So it has been mapped to quite some extent. In this particular study, what we did, we invited student subjects to the lab. We gave them different choice options. And in the experiential domain, these were songs. The participants came in and they listed their favorite genre from a list of different genres, hip-hop, jazz, classical, you name it. And then we said, well, you're going to make some experiential choices varying in riskiness, so a riskier versus a safer song. Under the scanner, and not just one choice, you make multiple of those. And then when you're done, from your favorite genre, you get to take home some of these songs on a memory stick. So people were in the scanner. They were subjected to these different choices, and based on ratings of people who had supposedly heard the song before them, they made their experiential choice. And some were risky songs, so it could be a really life-changing song, but could be also a very bad song. Other ones were safe songs. What we found is when people made these experiential choices, they were substantially more risk-seeking than when they made comparable monetary choices. And there we found confirmation for a long-standing paradigm, both in economics and also in behavioral psychology, which was researched by the late Danny Kahneman and Amos Tversky, prospect theory. And what they found is that for making monetary choices, when people are, doing a positive monetary choice, they're pretty risk-averse. And we find the mirror image. People for experiences are pretty risk-seeking. And the hippocampus is the explanation for that.
You talked about positive and negative valence. What do you mean by valence?
By valence, I mean how something or someone is seen to be positive or negative. So it's a spectrum in psychology on which we measure how positive or negative something is.
So you can have
someone.
Be very positive, and that's a high valence,
Yes.
or a little bit positive, and that's low valence.
Exactly. And it's often connected to affective states such as emotional responses, moods, and feelings. So there is positive valenced emotions like excitement, or negative valenced emotions like anger.
You also have looked at positive drivers, pride, curiosity, trust, and negative drivers very specifically. Tell us what you're finding out about what really drives us.
More generally, I'm really interested in the affective drivers of people's decisions, especially in the context of consumption. And I study discrete affective states. You named some of these. Hope is one, love, pride, but also in the negative domain, guilt and shame, and other things, and pain. And these different states have unique effects on a variety of consumer behaviors.
How do your findings impinge on how we relate to artificial intelligence, AI?
That refers to another stream of mine on trust, and we just recently published a paper on the role of AI in trusting interpersonal relationships. And there we were interested especially in what are the social and perceptions and the psychological underpinnings of someone who uses artificial intelligence for their work.
Sometimes I find that I'm reading something that just has a funny feel to it, and I suddenly realize this is AI generated. Am I likely to have a different response to whatever it is I'm reading? Say it's an advertisement, or could be an essay on anything. Mm-hmm. Am I likely to have a different response if I think it's or know it's AI generated than I would otherwise?
That relates directly to our research. There we make actually make it very explicit that something was AI generated. And once you make that explicit, right, people become very distrusting of the content, the person, the user. So what we find is people will find the generated content to be less authentic, the one who generated to be less committed to their work. The whole thing, the whole package is not seen as very legitimate.
Right. It's a little bit tainted because it could be being skewed.
Exactly. And we're all becoming better AI detectors now. So even if it's not disclosed up front, right? But you detect something, a word or a sentence structure that may hint that this could be AI generated, or maybe the advertising looks a little bit too good, right? The thing will be not seen as legitimate. They think whoever created this is not committed to it, right? It's not authentic.
But as AI gets better and better and better, the line is going to be hard to detect.
Exactly. And then for younger generations who grow up in this environment and may not have been trained in, say, the traditional way, right, on in writing and creative tasks, may have a harder time distinguishing what is uniquely human and what is technology and
Do you
automation.
worry about that, or do you see this as an exciting future with positive impact?
Both. I think the technology is obviously amazing, and I think there are many important applications. But at the same time, I'm deeply worried about it because it will take the human out of the equation in many respects, and that's worrisome to me.
Well, thank you very much, Martin. Your findings impinge on how we relate to AI in special ways. Also, it's fascinating that you're able to study rigorously human responses to all sorts of messages that come at us. I think that's really important. Martin Reimann, a faculty member in Eller College, is an expert in the science behind consumer choice. You can listen to this and all Arizona Science conversations at azpm.org/Arizona Science. I'm Leslie Tolbert.
Thank you to Research Corporation for Science Advancement for their support of Arizona Science. AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.